What if an American director/YouTube sensation redirected 1917 so it was broken up into multiple shots instead of one? What would the film look like? How on earth would he pick his shots? And how the bloody hell do you even make a shot list?
Today you're going to learn how to shot list a movie by absolutely butchering Sam Mendes' World War I film 1917, which he directed in one beautiful continuous shot. So since he was too lazy to make his shot list any longer than this, we're going to pick up the slack and learn a thing or two about how to choose a shot for a movie along the way. Now, shot listing and storyboarding are the best way to prepare for a shoot and communicate your vision to the crew. They're basically the same thing, except a shot list is a written description of each shot and a storyboard is a visual drawing of each shot. I prefer shot listing because it's quicker and I suck at drawing. But if it's a complicated sequence or it involves action or VFX, then I'll do a stick figure storyboard instead. Now, before we start shot listing, here's a quick rundown of some shot list lingo you might need to know out on the streets. Establishing: wide shot or long shot, medium shot, two shot, medium close-up, extreme close-up, profile, 3/4, over the shoulder, French over, high angle, low angle, eye level, aerial, pan, tilt, dolly, truck, boom, zoom, insert, background, foreground. And the list actually goes on, but don't worry too much about the terminology because the important thing is to write your shots in a way that makes sense to you. You just need to be able to figure out what the hell you meant when you wrote out a shot like. What the f is that? Finally, now that the technical stuff is out of the way, we can actually get our hands dirty with the thought process of shot listing and how you tell a story with your shot selection. Now here's the first page for the script 1917. This is what we'll work on. Now for a fun exercise, I recommend you actually pause the video here and come up with your own shot list for this page. Post it in the comments if you do. That way at the end you'll be able to compare to my version. We'll both be able to compare to Sam Mendes' version. It'll just be a lot of fun all around. Now with each shot, you need to be asking yourself, how is this shot telling the story? It's not about finding whatever shot is going to look the coolest. You should be thinking in terms of things like story, engagement, emotion, expectation, pacing, energy. So what I do is I always start by trying to figure out what the writer is doing with the scene. And to me, this scene is about introducing our characters in a brief moment of peace and harmony, which we will then tear away from them as they journey into the depths of war and brutality. So it is about the calm before the storm. So now how do I represent that idea, that feeling visually? Well, the writer is making my job easy by writing in a way that guides the reader's eye without specifically calling out shots or directing on the page. So the first thing that I would do is try to find a peaceful image. Maybe we could say an establishing shot, maybe a high angle, looking down on the landscape, a peaceful countryside. So, none of this is final. I'm just making this up as I go along. Here's an idea. Pan over to a tree in the foreground. So that just brings us into this tree, getting us closer to the soldiers that are sleeping at the bottom. Shot B. Why don't we get us down to these soldiers here? So we have the rustling of leaves and bird song. Why don't we do a close-up of leaves on a branch blow in the wind. One falls towards the ground. Pan with the leaf as it reveals the soldiers below. We're just going from this moment of peace and working our way down to the war, the fatigue, the filth that's below. And something about a leaf falling like that, kind of like an Adam and Eve type reference, Garden of Eden, change, death is coming, all these things. So, we're telling the story visually. And again, I think this would be a cool looking shot, but notice that I didn't approach that shot from what would look cool. I approached the shot from what's telling the story of we're in this peaceful moment and we're about to go into something horrible that's going to change a bunch of people's lives. Maybe the leaf falls and it reveals the characters whose lives are about to change. All right, now we've got character reveals here. So this is always important. The first time you see a character, especially your main characters, is always an important moment in your shot list. You should try to figure out a way to say something about the character and make it impactful in some way. The way it's written, you can tell almost that Schofield is the focus, Blake is in the background. Maybe just a medium shot of Schofield at eye level, Schofield leaning against tree. In background lies Blake, the leaf falls in foreground. So that's just, that leaf is carrying us from the last shot into this one. And I have a feeling we should just stay on this shot for most of this page. I think it would be cool to hear, and it says off screen here, so you're hearing this sergeant, you don't see him yet. Hear him say Blake, hear him say Blake. We're probably gonna assume that Schofield, who's in the foreground, is Blake, but it's not because he keeps his eyes closed and then Blake sits up in the background. Maybe we rack focus to Blake. Why don't we do that? Rack to Blake, rack back to Schofield as he opens his eyes. That's pretty good. But I think it's equally important to go over what might be some bad or inappropriate shots to put into this, because you can tell different stories with different shots. What if the way we introduced these characters was we dollied into them from the sergeant's boots, really low to the ground. We get to Schofield and we pan up and we're on a medium close-up looking up at Schofield, and we play out a bunch of the scene from there. What's that going to do to this scene and this story that we're telling? We're going to be making him look really powerful and heroic and larger than life. Instead, I think what the writer wants to do is to present these characters as very human and vulnerable. And so to do that, I would stick with eye-level shots that present them in a more relatable,
human way.
Blake pulls Schofield up and they start walking, and that's going to take us out of this page and this exercise. So we do another cut here. So we cut to a 2 shots, maybe a profile. We're going to move out of these close-ups into a wider shot that's going to give us a little more context of where they are. It will let us see this Sergeant Sanders that's come up and show us that they're equals. Something about a 2-shot profile puts 2 people facing each other and it just puts them on equal footing visually, at least to me. So that's the idea here. And again, I'm telling the story visually, always the thing to think about. Blake reaches a hand out to Schofield, pulls him up. Sanders watches from side of frame. They all walk off frame. And this can be nice. Maybe we hold on the peaceful tree for a beat. So they all walk off frame, leaving just that tree that we started at, which we're kind of using to symbolize peace, life, and harmony in this dreadful war zone. So they all walk off frame, indicating that they are leaving this peaceful harmony behind for something much worse. Don't dawdle, no Sarge. That's the whole first page. So really, we just did these 4 shots and I can give them all names, A, B, C, D. So that is my first pass of that scene. Now, once you've made the shot list, it's a very exciting time because it's the first time you get to actually see your movie in your mind. I'll often go through the script and the shot list and I will watch the movie unfold in my head, sometimes with the stopwatch running too, so I can get an idea of the pacing of a scene. It's just a very handy way to visualize whether or not a scene is going to work before you go through all the trouble of actually filming it. And if the scene's not working, I recommend taking a look at my video called Why Your Scene Sucks. It's a screenwriting checklist that I use because often the problem really lies in the script. Thanks for watching.